Hello, hello. Welcome back to another interview. Today we are here with Mr. Ogrizovich.
Hello.
On with the questions. So what first inspired you to be an arborist?
My love of climbing. I rock climbed for a long time, but living in Indiana and Illinois, there's not many rocks. So I saw a gentleman removing a tree at my father's house and decided that's what I wanted to do for a living.
When you rock climbed, was it just like, did you go to any gyms or were you just outdoors climbing?
It started in the gyms and progressed to understanding the rope systems involved, and then driving down to Southern Illinois or Red River Gorge or the New River Gorge on a monthly basis and working out there.
Yeah. Did you have like any of the equipment or was it like you just climbed?
I bought a lot of the equipment. Yeah, yeah. You have to, when you climb outside, you have to have your own gear,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't want to trust anybody else's gear. You don't buy used equipment. You want to know what your equipment's been through.
Yeah. What does a typical day look like on the job for you?
Currently, as a working arborist for NIPSCO, I begin my day by answering a lot of emails and driving around and inspecting trees. When I am actually climbing a tree, there's always a safety brief with the crew in the morning, run through and checking of all the equipment, life support equipment, rigging equipment used to remove or trim or prune trees, coffee, hanging out, kind of calming down, settling your nerves before you get into some serious work.
Yeah. So how do you find out if like a tree needs to, like, what are the criteria, what's the criteria for that? Like if a tree needs to get pruned or anything?
So the trees don't need anything. They're a living organism, and there's billions of them growing out in the forest right now, and they care little what we do.
Yeah.
However, when trees interact with people, it's the people's needs that supersede the tree. So it's whether or not the tree is a risk to a target, such as a house, a shed, a human being, or the tree's in decline. There are several factors that go into determining whether or not an action should be taken with a tree, whether to save it or remove it.
Yeah. Do you ever have to like cut trees down? How do you go about that if it's like next to a house or a building?
Okay, removal is a process that starts with assessment. There's always a tree risk assessment anytime you go into a tree. And you're looking for serious cracks, fungal bodies, things of that nature, large pockets of decay. Those have to be addressed if you're going to climb the tree to remove it. If it's so damaged that you cannot climb the tree safely, then you need to bring in some sort of lift. But once a determination is made to remove the tree, the process usually begins by starting at the top, setting your rigging equipment and your climb line, and then you have to come back down to the bottom because you can't rig out the top without removing the underside of the tree, and you start piecing it apart. If the limb will fall and hurt something, you tie a rope to it.
Okay. How has an arborist helped you in everyday life?
Being a tree climber and an arborist has made me very fit, made me strong. Climbing trees prior to me joining the Army made basic training very easy. I had no problem with basic training. It was fun. So physically, it helped me greatly. And mentally, it makes you mentally strong because you are putting yourself consistently at risk, and you're managing that risk. And that will give you strong mental fortitude. So those are the two major ways.
What like types of things would you like to see more implemented into the arborist world?
So as far as the culture is concerned, it's not so much in the industry that I'd like to see the change as in the greater culture of the people. The general population, it would be nice to see a greater understanding for the tree. That would be nice as it pertains to the reality that trees don't think or feel. They don't get happy or sad. They respond to their environment. And we would be wise to teach our children that. And so that when they get older and they own homes and they make decisions about what to do with trees on their property, they can not be so emotive when discussing their trees.
Yeah. How long have you been in the field of like arborists?
I've been climbing trees and doing tree work for 20 years now.
Has like the field changed since you began?
Greatly, especially with the way in which we climb. I was a part of a company in Michigan, in Detroit, called Singing Tree. The owner, Kevin Bingham, developed 2 significant rope tools that literally changed the way people go up and down rope. Not only for the arborist, but for window washers and tower climbers. So that was a big thing. It was a great thing to be a part of, literally redefining the industry and the way work is done.
Has there been any changes that have like made your job harder to do?
The amount of paperwork, a greater amount of responsibility and onus is placed on the crew itself for the way in which we conduct our work, mainly for safety practices. So is it harder? Yes. There's more nuance involved with protecting ourselves, but obviously it has a purpose and it's for the better.
And you manage a crew, right?
Yes, when I do tree work, when I contract, if I'm in the tree, I am in charge.
So how does that like work with like, dude, when you're managing crews? So you said when you're in the tree, you're in charge, but like, what if like you're not on the tree and you send people up there?
If I am not in the tree, it is usually to train someone, but regardless, if they're in the tree, they have the aerial view of the situation, and I would subordinate myself in terms of how we're doing it. I'm trying to coach them through the process, but at the end of the day, they're the ones with the chainsaw in their hand. They're the ones that are at risk and making the cut. So they're in charge. Now I can coach them and say, that is an insane idea. You should not do that. You should try this, and then I'll let them mull it over. But ultimately, it has to be their decision because they have to be confident in that cut that they're making.
How do you like when you're managing people? Like I know there's going to be some difficult people. I mean, especially in your line of work, it'll probably get really dangerous for them. How do you kind of manage those people?
By not raising your voice and asking them to walk through the decision that they're making. So in a life or death situation, which is almost any time you're pulling out a chainsaw to make a cut, it can be life or death. So you say, explain this, how this is going to work. And usually they'll bring themselves to the understanding of where I'm coming from. So that's usually how I resolve that. Now, if it's with something intrapersonal, that's the struggle of life. So that's a little harder.
Well, that's really all the time we have for today. Thank you for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having me. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.